Chapter 1, Unit 1, Applying for a Job, Part 1, Section C1, Listen to the dialogue.
How can I find out about jobs, Mr. Nyak?
Well, you can get information about them by listening to the radio, watching TV, or reading newspapers. But the most important thing is to decide what kind of job you want. Then, if you hear or read about one that you want, you can get an application form. You'll also need a CV.
What's that?
CV is short for curriculum vitae. It provides employers with the information they need to know about you. You submit it with your application form.
What kind of information should we provide?
Information about your educational background, interests, and experience. What's that you're holding?
It's today's newspaper. There's an advertisement for jobs at a hotel in Phnom Penh. My brother, Borin, is interested in it.
Let me see. If Borin's interested, I could introduce him to Mr. Kunnaret, who's the manager there.
Chapter 1, Unit 3, Applying for a Job, Part 3, Section A3. Listen to the interview.
Good morning, Borin. Please take a seat.
Thank you very much, sir.
We've looked through the application form, which you submitted to us last week, but we'd just like to check a few things. Which school did you go to?
Samrong Upper Secondary School in Champa.
Right. I see that one of your hobbies is sightseeing. What kind of places do you like visiting?
I'm interested in history and architecture, so I like visiting temples and other old buildings. Actually, I like this building. Was it built by the French?
Yes, about 70 years ago.
It does have a certain appeal, doesn't it, gentlemen?
I think so.
The New Market's another favourite building of mine. Do you know it, Burin?
Yes. I read in a guidebook that from the top it looks like the nose of a plane.
Yes, it's a rare achievement. Your English is very good, Borin. Who's your teacher?
Mr. Kim Nyak, who I believe you know.
Oh, yes. He's a very good friend of mine. Well, Borin, we'd like to offer you the job of junior tour guide. After your first month, we'll decide whether to continue employing you. Congratulations.
Chapter 2, Unit 3, Buddhism in Cambodia. Section A3. Listen to Buddhism in Cambodia.
As well as being an important world religion, Buddhism is an important part of the Cambodian heritage. In Cambodia, it is the national religion, although the Cambodian constitution allows people to follow any religion. Most Cambodians, however, are Buddhist and have been for many hundreds of years. Hinduism, however, still influences Cambodian culture and society. Before Buddhism arrived in Cambodia, people had been following the Hindu religion for many years. Angkor Wat, for example, was originally built as a Hindu temple, and statues of Hindu gods can be seen all over the country. In order to understand Cambodian society and culture, therefore, it is necessary to study the Hindu as well as the Buddhist religion. Between 1975 and 1979, Buddhism was almost abandoned in Cambodia. Before that time, most families had been sending their sons to serve as monks in the monasteries. In this way, they felt their sons could get a good education as well as improve themselves. Although most of them only stayed in the monastery while they were quite young, quite a lot spent their whole life as monks, serving the needs of the Buddhist community. Since 1979, Buddhism has returned to Cambodia. But is it as important today as it was in the past? It is easy to cut down a tree, but not so easy to grow one. The development of Buddhism will therefore need a lot of dedication and hard work. Many people in Cambodia, however, feel that their country will only achieve peace and happiness if Buddhism is reclaimed, because only Buddhism provides effective answers to their questions. They are hopeful that Buddhism, when it is studied and followed, will also provide the strength that Cambodian society needs.
Chapter 3, Unit 1, A Rare Liquid. Section A2. Listen to the story and dialogue.
It was a beautiful morning in London, and the summer sunshine was smiling warmly. Inside her house in Cambridge Street, private detective Simone Fox was enjoying the newspaper when there was a knock on her front door. It was a senior British police officer.
Good morning, Detective Fox. Here's my card.
Good morning, officer. Please come in. You look worried, officer. What's the problem? Or is it a secret?
Oh, no. It concerns Professor Martin Green. He's lost something important. We think it was stolen.
Do you mean the Professor Martin Green, officer?
Yes, the famous scientist.
How interesting. What did he lose?
He's interested in Cambodia's ancient stone temples.
I don't see the connection.
Sorry. It's a rare liquid. He invented it to protect them. That's why he's attending a conference there.
But why should anyone want to steal the liquid?
It's so effective it can protect people against any danger, as well as protect buildings against the forces of nature.
I see. If I'm to investigate this, I think we ought to ensure the cooperation of the Cambodian government.
We've already contacted them, although negotiations are proving to be a really complex process.
Why's that?
At first they thought you were a spy.
Well, spies and detectives are rather similar.
I think you ought to go now. Your flight leaves in 2 hours. Here's your ticket. Good luck, Detective Fox.
Thank you, officer.
Chapter 4, Unit 1, Protect Your Baby. Section A3. Listen to the story and dialogue.
Last week, Dr. Sok Chenda visited her younger sister, Sopa. Sopa lives in a small village about 20 kilometers from Champa. Sopa has just had her first baby. He is only 2 days old.
Hello, Sopa. How are you, dear? You must be tired.
Not particularly, but I have been feeling a bit dizzy. Is it because I'm breastfeeding? Some people say it's bad to breastfeed during the first few days. What do you think?
That's what many people think, but actually it's very important to breastfeed newborn babies.
Why is it so important?
The first breast milk is special. It contains many things that make babies strong and prevent them from becoming sick.
I see. But how about water?
Water's a real health hazard for babies because it's often dirty. That's the reason why you'd better breastfeed your baby, and don't give it anything else for at least 6 months.
Right. But what about my dizziness, Chanda?
I'm sure it's because you're feeling weak, Sopa. Having a baby's hard work, so I'm not surprised you feel weak. I hope you're getting enough rest.
I think so.
And you'd better eat well too, because you're feeding 2 people now, not just 1. Do you like apples, Sopa?
Yes, I love them. But is that relevant? I haven't got any.
Look, Kim Seng's brought some specially for you.
Oh, how nice.
Yes, and some clothes for your baby.
Oh, what a lovely gift. Thank you very much. Please thank Kim Seng from me when you see him.
Chapter 4, Unit 2, Sari's Husband. Section A3. Listen to the dialogue.
How's Sari, Sopa?
She's gone back to Phnom Penh to live with her mother. She said she'd rather do that than stay here alone.
Where's San?
He died last month.
What happened? Wasn't he quite young?
Yes, but he died of a heart attack.
Did he smoke a lot?
Oh, there was no limit. I saw him just before he died. He looked terrible, like someone addicted to heroin.
If he hadn't had a heart attack, he'd probably have died of cancer. How long had he been smoking for?
Oh, for years, since he was young.
Didn't he know it was bad and that he'd better stop?
Well, Sari told him they were poisonous. Mark my words, she used to say to him, you're spending all your money on poison. Give me your cigarettes and I'll exchange them for something that's good for you.
Sari's an intelligent woman.
Oh yes, San was very proud of her. He told me she always used to get top marks in her class at school.
Well, you'd think he'd rather listen to her than smoke himself to death then.
I know, but smoking was his bad habit. He had to resign from his job because of it, but he just couldn't give it up. If I stopped, I would feel more nervous, he used to say.
Chapter 5, Unit 2. Who is responsible? Section A3. Listen to more information about natural disasters.
In Unit 1, we read about natural disasters and began to look at how they may be dealt with. Because they are natural disasters and therefore caused by nature, we may imagine that they are like an enemy that threatens us, but cannot be defeated in the normal way. Nevertheless, things can be made either better or worse. Bangladesh's large population, for example, makes things worse, while its irrigation system makes things better. In recent years, however, we have begun to realize that some disasters that seem to be natural are actually man-made. This is because we now understand more about how we are part of our environment and how, if it is changed, our lives must also be changed. And if it is damaged, disaster must threaten. The trouble is that the damage is usually done without anyone realizing it. For example, when farmers in Nepal cut down trees, they only think about the wood they need. They don't think about the rivers that will dry up under a hot sun without any shade, or the topsoil that will be washed away and cause floods in Bangladesh, or a changing climate that will bring too much or too little rain when the forests have been cut down. The problem is complex, so a variety of possible solutions must be explored. Education is probably the most important factor, but even if Nepalese farmers understood the situation more, they would still need wood in order to survive. Either they must be able to use another material instead of wood, or know enough about forestry to cut wood without damaging the forest. To achieve this, however, responsibility for the problem must be shared by the whole of society, because farmers can hardly solve such a problem by themselves. In order to avoid such man-made disasters, therefore, it is important that people must learn to work with and respect each other, as well as work with and respect their environment. Chapter 5, Unit 3, Friendly Relations. Section A1. Listen to the dialogue.
Yesterday, we read about how some natural disasters are actually caused by people, like farmers in Nepal. Who do you think are responsible for them?
The whole of society.
Not just the farmers.
No, they can't deal with them by themselves because they don't have the knowledge or education.
Right, but what about the farmers in Bangladesh? By the time the problems in Nepal have been solved, floods will have destroyed their farms.
So the Bangladeshi farmers must be helped by their government. For example, they could help farmers build houses that float during a flood.
But that's not fair.
Why isn't it?
Because if the floods come from Nepal, it must be the Nepalese government's responsibility.
Yes, but unfortunately both countries are very poor. If Nepal doesn't even have enough money to help its own people, how can it give aid to Bangladesh?
It can't. But I read that when Mozambique suffered from floods, it received aid from rich countries.
Yes, friendly relations between all countries in the world, both rich and poor, must be established, because actually we all depend on each other.
But some countries think of each other as enemies. Then, when governments want to be friendly, their people think that it's some kind of defeat.
Yes, but by the time the need for national and international cooperation has been fully realised, our attitudes and feelings will also have changed.
Chapter 6, Unit 3, The Earth from the Moon. Section B2. Listen to the story and dialogue.
Mr. Douglas Armstrong has just returned from a journey to the moon. He is talking to a journalist, Ms. Susan Jones.
How was your journey to the moon, Douglas?
Pretty good. From the moment we switched on, everything went according to plan. Although travelling to the moon isn't exactly like being on leave.
Why not?
Well, conditions inside spaceships aren't very comfortable, and the food is really boring.
So was it worth it?
Oh yes, especially once we were on the moon.
What's it like up there?
Wonderful. From the moon, the Earth looks much bigger than the moon looks from here. Looking at it from space is strange. Our familiar Earth looks totally different. Everyone ought to have that experience.
Why?
Because it just looks like one planet, and you can forget that it's actually made up of different countries, languages, religions, cultures, and so on.
Perhaps we could get some idea of what you mean by looking at the film you made.
Yes, with luck. You ought to be able to get some idea, but it's not the same as actually being there.
What else did you do on the moon, Douglas?
We loaded our spaceship with soil and rocks and measured a whole combination of things.
Is that so that we can know more about the moon?
Well, yes, but not only that. Research on these things could bring many benefits to people on Earth.
We'd all appreciate that, but perhaps the most important benefit is what you saw from the moon.
Yes, I think so. One Earth with one people.
Chapter 7, Unit 1, San's Funeral. Section B2, listen to the dialogue.
Last weekend, Monica and Mike visited Sopar in her village.
Oh, I'm hot.
You had better sit down under the fan. Have a look at this. It's a photo of San's funeral.
Is that his coffin?
Yes, quite a simple design.
Yes. Dr. Chandar told me her son died, but she didn't tell me about the funeral.
Well, I'd better tell you then. The photo was taken on the third day when the body was cremated.
Do Khmer funerals always last for 3 days?
Well, that's our custom, but it also depends on the ability of the family to pay.
What they can afford?
Yes, because all the relatives, friends and village people come to show their respect for the dead person. That's only appropriate, but it can be very expensive.
I can imagine. Who's this man making a speech?
That was San's boss before he resigned.
Everyone seems to be wearing special black and white clothes.
Yes, but if you look closely, you'll see that these people are wearing only white. They are San's close relatives.
Oh, yes. Quite a display.